The captain gathers the third squad of Sun Kingdom Knights and announces the start of their monster subjugation mission inside the dungeon. Komi Sera stands among the group, responsible for training the new recruits. During roll call, several men notice that the rookie, Naito, is missing and grumble among themselves. Someone tells her to control her rookies, but she remains calm, knowing he is nearby. Moments later, Naito quietly appears behind Sera with his phone, surprising the squad. They scold him for not paying attention. He had been distracted by a puzzle game while the captain was speaking, and some make fun of his Eastern origin. Sera tries to steady him, but one of the rookies shoves him. He comes from a small island called Jipangli. Naito barely passed the entrance exam, speaks little, and stands out for being odd and silent. When a squad member reaches for him again, he simply vanishes. The others look around in confusion until he reappears behind Sera as if nothing happened. The group whispers that bullying him is pointless since he rarely reacts, and someone calls him a weak newcomer. With that, the squad finally enters the dungeon. As they walk, Sera quietly asks if Naito is really alright, since he has explored the dungeon often. He assures her that he is fine. As they continue, one man steps on a loose stone. A click follows, then a small explosion. Sera recognizes it as a trap immediately. The group starts pointing fingers, and one claims that Naito stepped in that spot earlier without triggering anything. He simply says his way of walking is a little different. Before the argument can go further, they turn to find 4 massive trolls behind them. Their presence fills the narrow dungeon, making the situation feel almost unreal. 2 rookies launch a burst wave spell, but the trolls remain unharmed. In the next instant, both men fall, crushed without a sound. Sera stares, unable to understand how such a strong spell failed. She looks around and spots Naito lying still on the ground. The trolls count their remaining prey and advance toward her. Even at full power, winning would have been difficult. With her magic already drained, Sera's chances are nearly 0. Yet she raises her sword anyway. This might be her final strike, but she chooses to fight. She releases Line Slash. A sharp wave shoots forward. The trolls leap aside with a speed she never expected. They laugh at the attack, noting that it could have killed them if it had landed. She realizes their movements are far too sharp for monsters of their size. One troll steps ahead to kill her. Sera tells Naito to run, believing she can hold them back for at least a minute. She has no magic left, only sword skill and stubborn strength. He hesitates. Before Sera can move again, something stings her neck. Her body loses strength at once. He has used a poisoned needle. Now, Naito stands alone. The trolls stare, confused that he is still alive. He steps forward, unwilling to let her die. They rush at him, claiming they only want the woman, but he disappears before they can land a blow. Sera lies numb on the floor and tries to speak, her voice stuck. She watches as he vanishes like mist. The trolls search wildly, but Naito is already behind them, humming softly. One troll turns and jumps at seeing him so close, but again he slips away. Sera lets out a small laugh, which angers the trolls, but Naito stays hidden. Using his concealment skills and quick combination attacks, he takes down 2 of them, then finishes the remaining 2 with Line Slash. Sera watches, shocked by how quickly it ends. He thinks to himself that Knight techniques are incredible. Even after months of training, Naito still can't match that kind of power as a ninja. He lies down beside Sera, trying to come up with a reason to explain the dead trolls and pretends she defeated them with another Line Slash. When she wakes up and asks who he is, Naito is shocked that she is conscious, since the poison should have knocked out almost anyone. She explains that she has survived many monster poisons in the past and built up resistance. He mutters that no one expected her to be that tough. Sera then asks how he managed to move behind the troll without being noticed, and points out that he even seemed to be playing around a little. Naito is surprised she could see him at all since he was using his concealment technique and was sure he had hidden his presence perfectly. She says she only sensed it faintly. He holds his head in disbelief, thinking it is the first time anyone has detected him while he was concealed, especially since he is a Junin. She then apologizes to him. He tells her she is not an ordinary person. She was the first to see through his concealment technique. He says she must have perfect sight to notice something like that and absent-mindedly calls her gorilla again. Sera frowns and tells him she is not sure about perfect eyesight, but she does ask him to stop ending his sentences by calling her that. She then asks if he is really a Junin, wondering if he might be one of the ninjas she has heard about from Jipangu. Naito confirms it proudly and adds that he is one of only 3 Jounin in his village, and among them, he is the most skilled. Sera cuts him off, saying she never asked for that and that he is annoying when he brags. As she watches him, Sarah thinks about his position as a spy and now a knight recruit. She also realizes she has been teaching a Jounin swordplay for half a year without knowing any of this, and the thought leaves her stunned. Sarah asks him if he plans to kill her. He knows his presence is already exposed, and completing the mission means killing anyone who stands in the way. As a righteous heart ninja, he is trained to accept any cruel act if it serves his lord, and this training keeps him from breaking down. Sarah feels anger rise within her. She once believed someone like him had the power to wipe out an entire group, and she feels she should at least fight back. He then decides he will not kill her. His words surprise Sarah. For 6 months she has chased him, taught him as a knight, stayed kind, and found him no matter where he hid. Naito has been trained so no one could track him, yet she was the only person who ever managed to find him through his concealment skills. Living in the shadows for so long, he felt for the first time that someone noticed he existed. He knows this goes against the righteous heart code, and it makes him feel unfit to be a ninja, almost shameful. Sarah understands this, but she wonders what he plans to do now. Naito sees 2 choices that would let him finish the mission while keeping her alive. He could let himself be captured by the Night Order, or she could drink the Morinization drug, which would erase her mind and leave her brain dead. Sarah finds his words harsh. He explains the drug is made from poppy grown inside the ninja village, praised for how completely it destroys a mind. She knows she will never take such a drug. Sarah draws her sword, refusing to bow to those who would destroy the order. Even if she loses, she will fight to protect everyone. He admits he never truly planned to force her into taking the drug. His current goal is only to retrieve the village's Bansen Shikai. She repeats the name, unsure, and Naito explains that the Bansen Shikai is a sacred scroll containing every jutsu that exists, including techniques no person should ever use. A year ago, a genius genjutsu user, once a Jounin, stole it and escaped the village. He became a fugitive. Even though that man was once a top ninja, Naito insists he was the more skilled one at that time, a claim that leaves her doubtful and slightly annoyed. Sarah wants to understand why he has entered the Night Order if the scripture is all he seeks. He then reveals information they gathered. The Ifuru Knight Commander is trying to claim the Bansen Shukai for himself. Sarah is confused at first. The idea of Commander Ifuru being involved does not make sense to her. Naito believes the commander plans to use forbidden techniques, especially one particular technique that is dangerous enough to speak of with caution. She feels he is only hinting at something without saying it directly. He asks if she has been entering dungeons recently. She has, thinking it is simply because there are no wars at the moment, and monster extermination has become their work. Naito tells her that the true purpose is treasure, and that they are searching for a dungeon tied to the scripture. He then reveals more. The Bansen Shukai is hidden in a dungeon. Kashin Koji, a genius of genjutsu and a man often compared to a magician, created that dungeon himself. For reasons unknown, he built it inside this country and left the scripture inside it, waiting to be found. He explains that he wants to reach the Bansen Shukai before Commander Ifuru does, and if the commander already has it, then he plans to steal it back. Sarah realizes then that the recent dangerous dungeon expeditions have all been for treasure. A thought crosses her mind that there have been uneasy rumors about the commander for quite some time. She decides to offer him a compromise. She will keep his identity hidden and allow him to continue his mission as a ninja. Naito is confused at first, but she clarifies that he spared her life, and since his work does not threaten the kingdom, she wants to repay the debt. As a knight, she feels bound by honor, and she swears in the name of God that she will not reveal what he is. He accepts her word easily, saying he trusts her, which surprises Sarah with how casually he says it. He even admits that she is too honest to lie, which she cannot decide if she should feel offended or flattered by. With that settled, Naito says they should continue like this until the mission ends and leaves the rest in her hands. She responds that she is not trying to act friendly or close, she only wants to use this chance properly and show her resolve. Sarah quietly thanks him for saving her, but before she can say more, he disappears. She sighs and calls out for him to stop vanishing so suddenly. A moment later, Naito appears again beside the unconscious men, checking their condition. He informs her that everyone has only fainted, so there is no need for immediate treatment. Sarah is surprised seeing him there, but then feels grateful that no one is hurt. He disappears once more and then reappears further ahead, inspecting the stone walls. Naito says the trap structure is thick and doesn't look interesting to deal with. She suggests that their only option is to reach the deepest part of the dungeon, because opening the treasure chest there should disable all remaining traps. He agrees, saying that they might as well continue forward since it will also let them see whether the Bansen Shukai is hidden here, which makes the effort worthwhile. He steps into the next area and she follows closely behind. On the way, Sarah asks how he uses that strange technique she saw, something like Yang style. Naito explains that it is called shadow walk, a technique used to hide the body and erase presence by removing scent and physical traces. He says that by spreading a thin layer of spiritual power over the body, like coating everything in oil, one can disappear from sight and perception. She reacts with a mix of curiosity and discomfort, thinking the idea sounds unpleasant, and wonders if ninjas truly have so many skills. He nods simply. Sarah then wonders aloud whether ninjas or knights are stronger. Naito answers that knights would win by a large margin. He says that ninjas do not have offensive skills, and she reacts with surprise. He adds that there are offensive techniques, but they are used only for escape with ninja tools. She asks why he is talking like that when she tells him to hurry. He explains that a ninja's work is intelligence, strategy, and assassination, meant to go unnoticed and not fight directly. In Jipangu, there are battle-crazed samurais, and the people there are unique. Sarah pauses, confused, then thinks about how Naito learned many knight techniques in 6 months. And because a ninja hides like a prowling cat, if he combines that with knight sword skills, he could become strong, almost like a ninja knight. He then moves and tells her that the way forward is here, but she questions him because it looks like a dead end. While Sarah tries to move and find another path, he insists it is here. She is still unsure until he tells her to step back. A sudden explosion shakes the place, leaving Sarah shocked and asking what he did and where the blast came from. She assumes he used magic, but Naito tells her it was a horokuhia, a ninja tool made of clay and filled with gunpowder. She does not know what gunpowder is, and he casually explains how to make saltpetre by urinating on mugwort and burying it in soil. Sarah reminds him that gunpowder does not exist on the mainland, while he answers that Jipangu is small but has a ninja village. She gets frustrated and tells him to stop talking like that. When the smoke fades, a hidden room appears, and Sarah is shocked that he figured it out so quickly. He explains that the walls were thin and smelled strange, like someone tried to hide something. Sarah says she has been to places like that during missions, and they smell like fish, which confuses him. She then realizes he might have offensive techniques and questions him, but he only mentions he used 4 precious horokuhia. Sarah thinks he is being too confident. Before she can finish, she sees something large, like a dragon. She cannot believe a dragon is here. Naito recognizes it as the source of the ominous scent from earlier, while Sarah had sensed a bamboo shoot smell. He is surprised she noticed. He moves forward without hesitation, and she panics, reminding him that it is a dragon, something a human cannot defeat alone, especially when she has no magic left. Naito stays calm. Sarah asks if he has fought one before, and he says no, this is his first time seeing one, explaining that in Jipangu, dragons are considered spirits, look different, and demons are defeated by samurai. She is stunned. The dragon breathes fire, and Naito grabs her and flies her away, leaving Sarah shocked at his power. She suggests retreat so they can plan. When she turns, he disappears and reappears on the dragon's leg. Sarah tries not to laugh. He then uses line slash. She gets excited, thinking he combined techniques with concealment, but then both realize the cut did nothing. Naito notes the strength of the scales. The dragon strikes him with its tail, and he admits it is 8 times tougher than he expected. Sarah warns him this is no joke and begs to retreat, but he stays calm and hands her his mobile to keep her quiet. She thinks he must be insane to act like this right now. He uses Burst Wave, and Sarah screams that it failed on a troll, so it should not work here. But then the dragon explodes. She freezes in shock. Naito shows her Uzumebi, a ninja tool buried underground that explodes when stepped on. He says he planted several of them while dodging tail attacks. Sarah realizes he aimed Burst Wave at the ground to trigger all explosions at once. Another mix of ninja and knight technique. He vanishes again, and when she calls for him, he appears before the dragon and strikes with another line slash. She watches in disbelief as he defeats the dragon alone, something that normally requires a whole party. Silently, Sarah thinks about how strong and frightening Naito is. He then finds treasure. Sarah assumes it must be valuable since a dragon guarded it, maybe even the Bansen Shukai. Naito says he cannot tell because Kashin Koji is nowhere in sight. She suggests breaking it with her sword, but he stops her and picks the lock instead. Sarah is surprised when it opens so easily. He explains that it is a kurorokagi, a ninja lockpick tool simple enough for a child to use. She warns him not to try opening her with his ninja skills. When they open the treasure, the box is filled with gold coins and jewelry. Sarah feels amazed, realizing it is not the Bonsen Shukai, while Naito calls it a bust and feels unsure how to react. He wonders if it smells like bamboo shoots, but she says it smells like acorns instead. 2 days later, at the Sun Kingdom Night Barracks, Sarah searches for Naito and knocks on his door, asking if he is inside. When he finally answers, she tells him to hurry and open it. He questions why, since they are off duty, but she insists because there is an emergency. He seems reluctant but allows her in, and she thinks about how difficult introverts are when it comes to personal space. Entering, Sarah finds Naito lying on the floor reading, and she wonders if he was raised on books and games. He says this is how he spends days off, though the number of books around him feels excessive. She cannot read what he is reading, and Naito explains the series is famous in Zipangu, with over 500,000 copies sold, filled with narrative tricks and foreshadowing that made him reread from Volume 1. She calls him a geek, noticing he becomes talkative only when discussing what he likes. But she also mentions that she sacrificed her own day off for training, because the Vice Commander Shimura Saint has come to give sword training. Naito is surprised and complains because he planned to finish reading everything, but she tells him to get up. He wonders why the Sword Saint would come here, and thinks the report about a female knight defeating a troll and a dragon may have reached him, even though Naito himself handled them. He assumes Shimura came to see him, and says he understands if it is to confirm a threat. Sarah is nervous and tells Naito to hurry because time is short. She notices how underweight he is and asks about it. He says a ninja must be lighter than 50 kilograms, like a single rice sack, because he often hangs from ceilings with only his fingers, and wearing heavy armor is impossible. She warns him he will die at this rate and is shocked when he hangs from the ceiling using only one finger. She mentions that he has only 12 magic points while she has 15, and that black marks on the body represent magic power. Naito reveals the mark is fake, painted with ochre and seashell pigment, because having too much magic is suspicious, and he actually has 108 points. She compares him to body hair and says even the Sword Saint has only 50. Sarah wonders if all ninjas are like this. He says he simply trains harder than anyone and seems proud that he holds the highest magic among all jonin in history. She thinks he is showing off and he decides to change clothes. She looks at the room and thinks it feels lifeless and lacking armor, and something feels strange. Naito pulls down a ladder and climbs up, revealing a second floor, shocking her. He says he hides his living space above, but she thinks it is absurd to build a mezzanine for that. He explains ninja houses are built with traps because they are chased by enemies, and Sarah asks why one would go that far. She realizes the uneasy feeling came from the low ceiling, which he calls a suspended ceiling that can collapse and kill intruders if the rope is cut. She tells him not to kill people with falling ceilings, but Naito says the area above is actually an escape route. She points out he always does whatever he wants. She prepares to leave, but her training sword is missing. Naito warns her, and the floor panel spins beneath her, revealing hidden space for storing weapons called Katana Kakushi. She can only scream at the ninja madness. The Sun Kingdom Night Order gathers, where Vice Commander Shimura stands before everyone, announcing he will test them personally. Magic is forbidden. He wants only swordsmanship. The knights respond at once. Shimura calls Sarah first, which frustrates her because she did not expect to be chosen right away. He remembers rumors of a golden sword wielder defeating a troll and a dragon, and thinks she must be hiding something. Knight ranks are based on strength, and only 2 swordmasters exist, Commander Ifuru and Sword Saint Shimura. Sarah feels excited for the chance to be trained by him. Their duel begins. She attacks first, but Shimura defeats her instantly, shocking everyone. He asks if that is all she has, and Sarah stands again, claiming it is not over. Shimura feels relieved, thinking no one will take his Sword Saint title anytime soon. Moving toward her, he considers hurting her just a little so she doesn't get too cocky. Sarah is shocked, but when Naito suddenly stands in front of her, blocking Shimura's attack. Everyone freezes at the sight. Shimura gets angry, demanding what Naito is doing and how he dared to step in without permission. He wonders when Naito got so close without him noticing. Naito introduces himself as the rookie and asks for a chance to spar. Shimura calls him brazen and says he will be next. Sarah thanks Naito for stepping in, and he is excited to see how much his sword skills have improved in 6 months. She realizes that is his reason. The two face each other. Shimura calls him rookie and tells him to begin. Naito agrees. The others whisper with irritation, calling him noisy for someone from the Leaf Country, and warning he might die. Shimura charges at full power, and Naito falls to the ground. People laugh, saying it was obvious. Shimura calls it a waste of time and prepares to move on. But Naito quietly pulls something from his pocket, lights it, and throws it. A blast erupts, shocking everyone. Smoke covers the field and Shimura can't see. Naito thinks about the escape technique using smoke bombs taught to island children. Sarah runs, worried she will miss the fight. Naito steps out of the smoke and says they should start over. Shimura stares, confused by Naito's sudden change. His presence fades, almost invisible, as Naito rushes in. Shimura sees his sword technique and admits he is fast, but believes a sword saint like him can still handle it. Every strike he makes misses as Naito dodges with ease. Shimura starts to panic, unable to read the speed. Sarah watches in disbelief. She thinks it makes sense only if Naito trained like a ninja, with inhuman exercises since childhood, such as light body skills, Tengu ascent, and more. Shimura shouts that he is a sword knight, a sword saint, but Naito suddenly vanishes from his sight. Shimura freezes and Sarah yells that he is behind him. Naito appears behind Shimura, ready to strike, but he stops when the smoke clears and the crowd sees them. Instead, he lets Shimura's attack land and falls. People laugh again, calling him an idiot. Sarah feels confused because she saw both of them fight evenly and wonders who Naito really is. He thinks that his physical ability helped make up for his unrefined sword skills and that he still has room to improve. Shimura looks at Naito and worries, thinking he isn't ordinary and could be dangerous. Naito thanks Shimura and offers him a drink. Shimura accepts, unaware that Naito has spiked it with a strong drug just to avoid attention. Shimura drinks and feels strange. Sarah asks Naito what he did, and he explains calmly that causing panic would be troublesome. He then asks Shimura to make the Northwest Tower their next dungeon target. Drugged, Shimura agrees. Sarah asks why the Northwest Tower. Naito says he smelled Kashin Koji's scent in the dragon dungeon from 2 days ago. She reacts in shock, realizing that means it was Kashin Koji's dungeon. Naito explains it was only faint, meaning he probably just passed through. She questions how a ninja can have a scent at all. Naito says that for some reason only he can detect it, and he has smelled traces of him in every dungeon he visited, with the scent growing stronger toward the northwest. He believes Kashin Koji is heading there. Naito looks around, thinking the fog here is amazing. Sarah agrees, saying that's why the place is called the Tower of Fog. Even though the entire region is cold, the fog around this tower is always the thickest. She asks if he isn't cold. He wonders if she assumes it's from ninja training, but she doesn't answer. As they approach, 3 travelers pass by. The captain asks if they are adventurers and warns about recent disappearances. Sarah explains that more people enter the dungeon for treasure than have the strength to survive. Naito listens quietly. The adventurers mock them, claiming knights steal treasure while pretending to fight monsters, and make fun of him for looking weak. He apologizes awkwardly, unable to clear up their misunderstanding. The group walks away, laughing that being a knight means nothing. Naito hopes they find success anyway. Sarah says it won't matter since only strong people reach the deeper floors. The knights begin exploring, and the fog grows heavier. Sarah notices it hides Naito's presence even more. He reminds her that he's still there. She asks if he smells something again. Naito says he smells strong shimeji mushrooms. Sarah grows tense, thinking that means a powerful monster is nearby. Suddenly, a wraith appears in the mist and everyone freezes. The ghost rushes forward. Naito swings his sword, but it passes harmlessly through the spirit. Another wraith attacks and he disappears instantly, reappearing behind it. Sarah scolds him for moving like that and tells him not to startle spirits. A scream breaks through the fog as one of the knights is grabbed by a wraith, causing their formation to break. She uses her sword technique, line slash, cutting through the ghost, then tells Naito they need holy water to defeat wraiths. He understands, though she complains he spills too much. They fight hard together until every wraith is gone. Sarah says the fog and dampness make this place perfect for spirits. The captain warns that more are waiting ahead and not to waste holy water. The group continues climbing as the fog thickens even further. Sarah looks toward Naito. He reaches for her hand, and his body begins to fade. She disappears with him, the two of them splitting from the rest. Sarah asks what he's doing. Naito says he wants to find the treasure first, and in fog like this, it's safer to stick together. She senses a slimy magic from his hand, and realizes he's sharing his camouflage with her. She questions him about applying it like oil, especially on a girl. He says he imagined coating both their bodies. She also asks if the strange way he walks is really necessary. He calls it moonwalking, a ninja technique, but admits that camouflage is weaker when shared. It depends on luck, like a four-leaf clover. She nods, knowing it will be difficult. They climb through the tower, fighting more spirits. Sarah asks about holy water, and he says they only have a little left. As the fog keeps thickening, Naito pulls something warm from his pocket. Sarah holds it and feels heat travel through her hand as he explains it's a ninja fire tool called Daobi. It burns without flint and lasts 12 hours, so it works as a pocket warmer. She's impressed. Naito says his hands are numb from finishing a puzzle game, but insists he's fine. Sarah gets annoyed at him choosing a game over her. They then find the treasure. Sarah stands in front of a row of treasure chests, noting how many there are. These must be what the adventurers from earlier were after. She decides to open one carefully, and when she lifts the lid, she finds it full of gold and jewelry. Moving to the next box, the moment it cracks open, a mimic creature tries to crawl out. Before it escapes, Naito suddenly appears behind the box, pushing the lid shut. Sarah is stunned, wondering when he managed to get there. He takes out the Kuroro key and fits it into the lock, sealing the mimic away. She feels relieved and thanks him. Naito explains he suspected something because of the strange smell, thinking one of the treasures might be a monster. Now he realizes mimics exist here too. With one key he can open and close them easily. Sarah thinks it's almost frightening how a ninja can open any lock. She tells him he should have warned her sooner, but he says her excitement over treasure was too strong, so he held back. She insists it wasn't. He reminds her the real treasure still needs to be collected, and as knights they have to secure it, although it will be carried by the captains. She turns to look at the chests again and realizes the path is familiar. They are back where they started. Sarah feels uneasy, saying they must be lost. The fog seems to have misled them, and the dungeon may be far more difficult than they expected. She hears a low rumble and grows irritated. Naito suggests they rest for a bit, but she insists they keep moving so the others don't catch up. He argues they can't ignore a sound like that. She snaps that it's not rumbling. Naito pulls out provision balls and hands her one. Sarah looks at the sticky lump with clear doubt, calling it unappealing. He explains it's portable preserved ninja food. She forces herself to eat it, surprised to find it sweet and heavy, silently giving it a rating. Naito explains the sugar and herbs are meant to reduce pain and fatigue. He eats his as well. She realizes even he is tired, and the tower dungeon is difficult even for him. He then tells her it wasn't a provision ball at all, but a thirst pill. With the sourness and herbs, it makes saliva and moistens the throat. He explains the thirst pill is greenish because of mint, while the brown version is a starvation pill that keeps you full for a whole day. Sarah cuts him off, telling him to stop talking. She pushes forward, hoping they won't get lost again. Naito asks for the bronze fire. She hands it over, confused, as he heats a needle and drops it on a leaf. The leaf moves, and he states that the direction is north. Sarah is speechless, asking what he is doing. He explains it's a ninja method for navigation handed down for generations. Common knowledge even ninja kids know. She grows annoyed at how casually he says it. Soon more spirits appear. They fight through them and climb higher until reaching the top floor. Sarah notices they've arrived first. The mist is denser and the cold sharper. 2 rooms stand ahead. Inside one sits a giant man, but she quickly realizes it's a frost giant releasing freezing air strong enough to create the fog that fills the entire tower. The mist must have sunk down from the snowy mountains. Naito confirms it isn't Kashin Koji, but says the scent remains, meaning he was here at least once. Sarah focuses on the treasure, deciding they'll only know the truth after defeating the giant. When they check the second room, they find countless spirits and 3 adventurers trapped inside. Naito feels he was right to suspect something unusual, and stares at the overwhelming number of wraiths. Sarah assumes the spirits gather near the giant for its cold air while guarding captives. He questions if monsters eat humans, but she thinks maybe later. Naito points out there are too many monsters compared to the number of prisoners. He wonders what a dungeon really is. Sarah replies it's a monster dwelling created by magicians using treasure to lure humans inside. He considers that understanding this might explain why Kashin Koji makes dungeons at all. She reminds him they have a more immediate problem. They have no holy water left and can't defeat spirits or save the adventurers without it. As a knight, she can't leave them. Naito tells her he can use the concealment technique to free the adventurers unnoticed. She remembers that the technique only works properly while holding hands. After that, they plan to defeat the frost giant together. He says they can't fight the giant first because if the wraiths notice and attack the prisoners, they won't be able to handle it. Sarah insists she will fight too. She feels frustrated that he doesn't rely on her, but she won't step back. She will help as a knight. Naito prepares to rescue the adventurers first. He says he should keep track of his remaining magic power, then enters a room full of spirits. Sarah watches from outside, feeling nervous and wishing he would stop messing around and just get it done. He reaches the cage, opens the lock, and the adventurers inside panic until he quietly assures them he came to rescue them. They ask how he got there, thank him, and hold his hand as instructed. He whispers that the wraiths will not notice them, and one adventurer wonders if this is magic power, while another says it's his first time seeing anything like it. Naito uses magic to get them out of the cage. Sarah observes that with 3 people, his magic drains quickly, and even with 108 points, she worries it might not be enough. She shivers from the cold, with the frost giant standing nearby, and even her armor begins to freeze. She tries to hold a torch but drops it, the sound echoing across the room. The frost giant notices her and calls out to the knight brave enough to come alone. Sizing up his massive form, she grips her sword and decides she must fight until Naito returns, even believing she may have to defeat the giant by herself. He hears the sound and realizes Sarah may have been noticed. The wraiths begin to notice him too, and he panics, knowing he can't fight them without holy water. He must choose between helping Sarah or protecting the adventurers. Sarah fights the frost giant with a line slash, but it does nothing. The giant punches her into a wall and she feels the hardness of his body, noticing she has only 6 magic points left. She decides to risk everything on one technique and uses rolling slash. Convinced it will work, but the giant remains standing. She cannot believe her strongest single-point attack failed. The frost giant, now angry from being wounded, attacks, but she dodges. Meanwhile, Naito remains in the spirit room, and the adventurers whisper for him to move. He brings out small balls. They ask if they are dumplings, but he says they are thirst pills and tells them to hold his shoulders. He rubs the pills across his sword, and the adventurers think fear has broken him. Naito explains that the pickled plum inside contains salt, and in Zipangu, salt is used instead of holy water against spirits. Combining his stealth technique with thirst pill coating, he uses a massive line slash and cuts the wraiths in half. The adventurers stare in awe, seeing hundreds fall. He confirms the salt worked, and they call him amazing. Naito tells them to wait and steps out, seeing Sarah still standing against the frost giant. He laughs at how frozen she looks, but she insists now is not the time. The giant notices him. Sarah warns that even rolling slash barely scratched the monster. He acknowledges her and moves forward. She sees he has only 6 magic points left and begs him to run, but he remains calm and asks her to lend him the copper fire. The giant tries to freeze them both and throws a box. Sarah realizes this is the same tool Naito used against the dragon. He uses fire combination technique with rolling slash, activating flaming chariot, and cuts the frost giant in 2. Naito notes that ninja fire techniques work well against ice monsters. Sarah is shocked, thinking about how much she struggled while he finished it instantly. He explains it burned well because of the peppermint oil from the thirst pill. She cannot believe he smeared pills on his sword and wonders what he was thinking. Urging them to move before the wraiths notice, she is surprised when he replies that he already defeated them. She is unsettled by how capable he is. They check the treasure before the other knights arrive. It holds gold and jewelry, but not the Bansen Shukai, which disappoints them. The adventurers stare, amazed he even killed the frost giant, and call him Anikai. He warns them not to tell anyone what happened, threatening broken bones and memory-erasing drugs. Sarah regrets finding no clues. The adventurers mention a knight from the east who spoke with monsters and took captives before they arrived. Naito shows an image, and they confirm the man. Sarah notes his oddly accurate guess, and he says it is Kashin Koji, meaning they just missed him. The adventurers report seeing Koji leaving the tower, carrying adventurers toward the northwest. Naito believes Koji's dungeon may be there. In the village of Seoul, the captain praises everyone for their work, but points out once again that it was Sarah and Naito who defeated the dungeon boss. The other knights complain, confused and frustrated, while Naito insists he did nothing and claims it was Sarah smashing the frost giant like a gorilla. She snaps back, offended by the comparison. The captain announces that everyone will rest in the village for 2 days since their next mission is a northern dungeon, and returning to the capital would be troublesome. Sarah turns to Naito, suggesting they could use the break to check the western dungeon, but she pauses when something shocks her. Captain Ifuru stands before them, and Naito sees him up close for the first time. The presence and pressure Ifuru gives off is overwhelming, unlike anything Naito has ever felt. He wonders why someone like that is here. One of the knights asks Vice Captain Shimura what happened, as everyone is surprised to see the first squad. Shimura explains that one of their members was petrified by the dungeon boss cockatrice, so they stopped in Seoul to have the condition undone safely by the blacksmith. Ifuru himself seems unsettled. The moment he looks into Naito's eyes, his mind goes hazy, unable to understand who Naito is or why he feels so different. Sarah watches quietly, thinking that if Naito pushed even a little further, he might break the captain's sanity. Other knights whisper among themselves, saying it has been ages since they last saw Ifuru, calling him both frightening and impressive. Sarah notices the sword at his side, the hero sword. Even after seeing it countless times, she still finds it unbelievable. Naito asks what the sword is, unaware of its significance. Sarah explains that 400 years ago, the blade was given to the hero who defeated the Demon Lord, and that Captain Ifuru is the 17th descendant of that hero. He reacts to the mention of the Demon Lord with confusion. Sarah is stunned, unable to believe he doesn't know something so basic, and wonders if he is messing with her on purpose. She explains that in Zipangu, isolation from other nations was once strictly practiced. 70 years ago, a fleet from the continent arrived, demanding open borders, but the samurai killed them all. Naito listens closely, impressed by how clearly she explains it, and urges her to continue. She brightens a little at the praise and goes on. 900 years ago, the demon lord Bathala appeared and tried to destroy the world, beginning the First Demon Lord War. The world barely survived before Bathala vanished for unknown reasons, an event humanity called the miracle of mankind. Naito, fascinated, asks for more. She explains that 500 years later, Bathala returned, beginning the Second Demon Lord War. The struggle lasted 8 years, with humanity barely holding on until, at the last moment, the Sun Kingdom's knight Chilovek Ifuru defeated Bathala. That was the birth of the world's hero. When she finishes, Naito looks let down, saying it's already over. Sarah silently wonders if he really needs to sound so disappointed. He then reveals he already knew everything. Before missions, he researches all information in advance. He calls it the technique of the 5 emotions, using flattery to relax someone and draw out knowledge, and says he wasted his acting on her. Sarah is left annoyed, feeling like she is the one who was tricked. Naito silently observes Captain Ifuru, wondering why someone of his level would use the forbidden arts of the Bansen Shukai. He tries to read the man's intentions, questioning what he might be planning. Ifuru walks toward them and speaks to Sarah first, confirming her name. She answers politely, and he says he heard she defeated the troll dragon, and even the frost giant. Sarah is stunned and thanks him, feeling nervous and strangely proud. It is her first real conversation with him, and she is moved that someone like him would speak to a lower-ranked knight. Yet she notices his eyes, sharp and fixed beyond her. Ifuru asks if she opened the frost giant's treasure chest. She realizes he was looking at the chest all along, not at her. He then turns to Naito and asks if they have met before. Naito denies it. Another knight explains that he only joined half a year ago. Ifuru decides it must have been his imagination. Naito thinks to himself that he always watched Ifuru from a distance. Hiding perfectly? There should be no way a Jonin-class ninja like him would be noticed. Sarah snaps at him to stop thinking like that. Ifuru orders the lock on the chest to be broken. Before anyone can move, the ground shakes violently. Everyone panics as a massive beast rises before them. A basilisk. Knights shout in fear, unable to understand why a monster of that class would appear here. The basilisk speaks, calling them the ones who killed its cockatrice. Sarah remembers that the female of the basilisk species is the cockatrice. The creature looks at Ifuru and mentions the hero sword, calling him the descendant of the hero who killed the demon lord 400 years ago. It claims it has come to settle that grudge. Knights panic, knowing even with 2 squads they might not win, and prepare for battle. The first to charge is instantly thrown aside, then another. 2 go down in seconds, shocking everyone. Naito wonders what he should do, knowing he cannot afford to reveal himself by defeating the basilisk. All he can do is protect Sarah. She decides she will put all her magic into a single strike. Naito tries to call her, hoping she won't rush forward. The basilisk attacks Ifuru directly, intending to kill him. Ifuru reacts by throwing the bodies of fallen knights in front of him as shields, and the basilisk devours them instantly. Sera is horrified. Naito thinks Ifuru is ruthless yet effective. Ifuru realizes the basilisk is aiming for the treasure chest. If that chest holds the Bansen Shukai, he cannot allow it to be destroyed. The basilisk charges. Ifuru kicks the chest away and takes the blow himself. Knights cry out in shock as he is thrown back. The basilisk laughs, believing the fight is over. But Ifuru stands, wounded but resolute. He gathers the last of his strength and unleashes Crescent Brave Slash, ordering everyone to fall back. Everyone stares in disbelief at the basilisk, split cleanly into two. The knights are stunned, whispering that Captain Ifuru defeated the Snake King Basilisk with a single strike. They say only he can use Crescent Brave Slash, the ultimate move. Ifuru explains that mastering it requires years of training, and even the minimum magic cost is over 40 points. The skill can only be unleashed with the hero's sword, forged by a legendary blacksmith. The blade never dulls, channels magic through every edge, and even amplifies it. Even for a sword saint, it is a technique beyond human limits. Sera watches, feeling annoyed at Ifuru's calm explanation, which sounds almost theatrical, as if he's speaking simply because he can. Naito wonders what kind of man he is, questioning what drives him to go that far just to obtain the Bansen Shukai. The knights rush to their captain, worried about basilisk venom and wanting to treat him immediately. He brushes them off, saying it will heal as always. Ifuru laughs softly, finding it strange, and supposes it might be the power of hero blood. Nearby, a mother and child sit in the street. Sera sees them and feels anger rising. Ifuru had swung without hesitation, even with villagers nearby. One misstep could have killed many. In her heart, she hates him for it and finds him unforgivable. She repeats it to herself. She hates him. Naito notices her expression and points it out. Ifuru opens the treasure chest, revealing only gold and jewels. He carries it to the villagers, apologizing for the destruction and telling them to rebuild using the contents. They thank him with relief. Then he turns to the bodies of his fallen knights, stating that their courage and devotion will be remembered forever, and their souls will be honored for eternity. Sera watches with a sharper anger, seeing his words as shallow. She refuses to be fooled, her dislike growing stronger. Naito again comments on her expression, comparing her to something primal which only irritates her more. He then reflects that his sole reason for infiltrating the knights was to monitor Captain Ifuru, to recover the Bansen Shukai from the dungeon, and if Ifuru already had it, to steal it back. From everything that happened today, he realizes that Ifuru still does not have the Bansen Shukai. Sera stands beside him, certain of something else entirely. Her dislike has turned into absolute hatred. She cannot forgive how the captain treated comrades and villagers like insects. Naito asks why she is suddenly speaking so politely, then says he will take a short rest and head west. She is surprised he means to leave immediately. He explains he needs to reach the place before the captain does, since Kashin Koji was nearby. Sera agrees about the urgency and says she will prepare as well, but he responds that he will go alone. There's no need for her to risk herself, and traveling with her will only slow him down. She refuses, insisting she is going too, because she will never allow the captain to obtain the Bansen Shukai. He accepts it, though his expression shows reluctance, enough that even she notices. Later that night, someone knocks on Captain Ifuru's door. He allows entry. Several figures in gowns with concealed faces step inside. They address him and inform him that Kashin Koji's dungeon has been located. Ifuru reacts sharply, pleased that the search is finally over. He praises them for their success. Now, the forbidden art of the Bansen Shukai, the soul transfer technique, will be within his reach. He hands them an item to take with them and tells them he is counting on their success. Sera asks if they are really walking to the dungeon instead of riding horses. Naito says yes, because he doesn't want the knights to notice them. She notices the luggage on his back and wonders why he is carrying so much. He explains that no one knows how large Kashin Koji's dungeon is, or how far it might be, so he brought camping gear and supplies just in case. She finds it unbelievable, especially since they can't take off their armor because monsters might appear in the forest. Naito tells her she can stay behind if she wants, since the night forest is dangerous. She refuses, thinking he is just trying to get rid of her by being kind, and says she will prove her worth as a knight. He explains that ninjas have tricks for running without getting tired. Sera is shocked. He teaches her to pull in her chin and look nearby to stabilize breathing, to breathe in and out in rhythm, to press umeboshi to the navel, and to move the right hand with the right foot and the left hand with the left foot to reduce wasted motion. She questions the umeboshi part, but he says it's a method passed down in the village even if the principle is unknown. Sarah tries the technique, feeling awkward and embarrassed, wondering why she has to stick a pickled plum on her stomach. Naito turns back in disbelief that she actually followed everything. He says not even the lowest apprentices take the umeboshi part seriously. She feels insulted and asks why he gave it to her at all. Suddenly, Naito rushes toward her, lifts her, and moves them aside as an arrow shoots toward where she stood. A centaur appears, calling out to them. Sarah draws her sword, short of breath. Naito tells her to leave it to him and moves away with a burning torch. The centaur taunts him for leaving his partner behind and charges, loosing another arrow. Naito dodges easily. The centaur grows frustrated, unable to catch him, and confused at how he does not tire. Naito stays calm, then sprints forward. The centaur tries to outrun him but fails. Naito uses Namba running and cuts the centaur down with a single diagonal strike. He states that the fastest ninja in the village once ran 256 kilometers in 4 hours, and last year he surpassed that as a jonin. Sarah finally reaches them, breathless, and sees the fight is already over. Naito remarks that he defeated a horse through endurance and urges them to continue on the path. She notices they have left the forest and asks if they passed Kashin Koji's dungeon. He tells her she no longer needs to Namba run. He can still smell Koji's scent and sees wagon tracks leading toward a small island. Sarah wonders how they will get there and spots a monster boatman. Naito realizes he could have been used to transport captured humans across the sea. She suggests defeating the goblin and crossing, but Naito refuses. He wants to confirm whether Kashin Koji used that boat and hopes the monster can take them to the dungeon entrance, since searching alone would be troublesome. Sarah cannot believe he plans to rely on a goblin, but Naito says disguise is a ninja's skill. He explains the 7-direction disguise used to infiltrate by taking on the role of 7 different occupations. Even though this is not Jipangu and their target is a monster, the idea remains the same. He molds magic like clay and forms the face of the centaur they fought earlier. Sarah is surprised at the exact likeness, even down to the voice. Naito explains that the final test of a ninja's disguise is to ride a ferry boat and deceive the boatmen, since boatmen meet many people and notice small details. She doubts if just copying the face is enough, but he proceeds. He approaches the boatman, still disguised, and greets him. The boatman recognizes the form as someone he knows and agrees to take them to the dungeon entrance. Sarah hides beneath cloth, trying to stay quiet and not slow Naito down. The boatman notices Naito trembling and asks if he is all right. Sarah fears they have been discovered, but Naito claims he is only holding his pee. The boatman tells him to go before boarding. Naito asks whether Kashin Koji had recently crossed. The boatman confirms it, saying Koji brings humans often. Sarah is stunned that even monsters know Koji's name. The boatman begins to sense something off and questions Naito's appearance, but Naito quickly claims he urgently needs to relieve himself. The boatman panics and rushes them to shore faster. They step off the boat. Naito returns to his original form and points out that the disguise worked, calling it a successful Jonin-level infiltration. Sarah thinks he relied on fake urgency more than skill, but Naito focuses on what matters now that they know Kashin Koji is inside the dungeon. Sarah quietly asks Naito if the place smells bad. He tells her it does, and she realizes this really might be Kashin Koji's dungeon. She then asks if he senses any strong monsters, but he says there aren't any. Still, the place feels different from other dungeons, like wearing wet shoes for too long or having a ration pill stuck between her back teeth. Sarah can't relate, but Naito says they should keep moving. They enter the dungeon, and she is startled to see the ground covered in deep water. Sarah points out they can't move forward without stepping in, and her feet won't reach the bottom. She knows she can't swim with armor on, but taking it off would be too dangerous with monsters possibly lurking nearby. She panics, uncertain what to do. Naito hands her a tool called Mizugumo, a water spider device. She's surprised to learn it can let her walk on water. He explains it's difficult to use, meant for swamps and only mastered by mid-rank or higher ninja. She asks what he'll do if there's only one, but Naito simply says he'll swim. He removes his armor and she jokes that for a moment she thought he was a giant slime. He explains he coated himself in shikimi oil, which stops body temperature from dropping in the water. He tells her to apply it too, but she refuses. Thinking ninjas are always doing strange things like rubbing oil or sticking pickled plums to their bodies. She steps onto the water with the Misugumo and struggles, only able to walk by clinging to the wall, moving slowly and awkwardly. Naito compares her to a newborn baby. She mutters back, irritated, but keeps pushing forward. Meanwhile, he swims ahead smoothly, balancing his backpack and sword on his head. Sarah asks why he keeps staring at her as he swims, though she admits it looks impressive. He explains the technique is called incite, a ninja swimming style that lets someone swim in armor and keep weapons dry. She calls after him to wait as he moves further ahead, while she struggles to keep up, pushing forward step by step. Sarah spots the monster first and freezes. Naito recognizes it as a Kelpie, another horse-type creature, and the Kelpie announces its approach. Naito quickly says he can't deal with this right now and leaves it to her. Sarah stays pressed to the wall, unable to swing her sword properly with the water in the way. She decides to use Piercing Strike, a technique that extends the sword's tip using magic. The blade shoots forward and brushes the Kelpie but misses its vital point. She loses sight of it and scans around, tense and unsure where it moved. The Kelpie suddenly appears in front of her and drags her underwater. She struggles as she sinks deeper. Naito reaches her and grabs her hand. Sarah uses line slash blindly, unable to see anything in the darkness. She doesn't know how many Kelpies surround them, or if they're just waiting, afraid to be cut but ready to pull again. Her lungs burn as panic spreads. Naito is down there with her, and she can barely hold her breath. She tries to tell him to let go so he can escape, believing they'll both drown if he stays. Suddenly, something presses into her mouth, firm and unexpected. She realizes Naito has pushed the detached tip of his sword scabbard between her lips. She can breathe. The scabbard works as a tool for breathing underwater. Relief floods her, but another fear follows. She thinks she's saved, but at this rate, Naito will die instead. Watching him, she notices he still seems calm. Then he starts making muffled glub-glub sounds, forcing himself to hold his breath. He says that with training, he can die for 10 minutes, and that he is a high ninja. Sarah panics and begs him to stop talking or he'll die. He wonders if, staying like this, both of them will drown and what they should do next. Naito pulls something from his backpack, a torch. Sarah panics inside, convinced the flame will die as soon as it touches water, but instead, she watches it burn steadily beneath the surface. He explains that it's an underground torch made with gunpowder and materials that help it burn longer, like mouse droppings, camphor, and pine resin. With the new light, she finally sees the herd of horses surrounding them. The sheer number makes her freeze. Naito moves in quickly, combining piercing strikes and driving through the group at once. Sarah realizes he skewered several together in a single attack. They both break through the surface and gasp for air. She admits she really thought she was going to die and thanks him, then startles when she sees him cutting open the Kelpies. She demands to know what he's doing and why he's butchering them. He says he needs only one organ in their intestines. Using the Kelpie intestine, he makes her a floating ring, explaining that ninjas use animal intestines as flotation devices. Now she can swim even in armor. He calls it a fair exchange for the water spider tool, then reminds her she should have used the shikimi flower oil as well. She snaps at him to shut his mouth. Ahead, a huge open area stretches before them. Naito looks around and says the place is enormous. Sarah has never seen a dungeon room like it, and assumes it's because it belongs to Kashin Koji. Still, Naito feels that same uncomfortable sensation he mentioned earlier, like wearing wet socks. Sarah sighs that he's still stuck on that comparison. Suddenly, something moves toward them. Mermen rush in. Naito calls them human fish. Sarah sees how many there are and wonders how he has the nerve to grin. The mermen shout to kill the intruders. She struggles with her floating ring as it wobbles, making movement difficult. Naito pulls her out of the mermen's attack path, and she thanks him again. He says he'll take care of them for a while and moves ahead. Naito notices something shifting beneath the surface. His expression changes and Sarah follows his gaze. Both freeze as a massive shadow rises from the water. Moments later, a kraken erupts upward, huge tentacles tearing through the calm surface. Sarah stares in disbelief. An ultra-class monster here of all places. It feels unreal. She says this dungeon is far more dangerous than she imagined. Turning to Naito in frustration, she reminds him he said no strong monsters were near the entrance. He answers that he couldn't detect it because it was underwater, and adds that the strange wet sock feeling is gone. For some reason, he feels clearer now. Sarah grows angry, thinking this is not the time for him to feel relieved about that. Sarah warns Naito that something is coming. He quickly activates his invisibility technique, slips behind the creature, and dispatches it with a clean slash. She cheers him on as more monsters rush toward them. Naito vanishes again, repeatedly using the same move to cut down each opponent. He then mixes in his lemon squash and Reinhardt slash ring, clearing the area with ease. After finishing, he tells Sarah that all 8 have been defeated. She is amazed but notices he became bored halfway through and started playing around. Before they can relax, the huge creature rises in front of them once more, its wounds healing as it regenerates. Watching this, Naito realizes it won't stop. They will need to find and defeat the main body.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand,